Eating similar meals every single day is a low-key weight loss hack, but the question is, which foods should you be eating? So in today's video, I want to share with you the 5 foods I ate on a regular basis to drop 20 pounds off of my body in 3 months. By the way, my name is Dango. I help entrepreneurs transform their bodies with ease and minimal stress. Now let's get on with the video. Now, come over here for a second. Let me set some context for this video. There are a few things that I'm looking for when it comes to adding foods into my life, especially ones I'm going to be eating on a daily basis. Number 1 is going to be nutrient value. The more nutritious my foods are, the more nutrients that it has, the more I'm going to be able to be number 2, which is satisfied. I want to feel satisfied from my meal, whether that's the satisfaction of not needing to eat another meal because I feel so full, or it's the satisfaction of eating a food that tastes so good that it's like magic in my mouth. And the third one is going to be what I call the P to C ratio, which is the protein to calorie ratio. So I want to know, how much calories am I taking in? And within that allotted calories, how much protein am I taking in as well? Now, all 5 of these foods don't necessarily contain all 3 of these things that I'm looking at, but they contain a good portion of them. So let's start with the first one. So the first food that I eat on a regular basis is a nice New York striploin steak. So good. I think you have to smack it to get the extra nutrients out. You just gotta smack your steak. Now steak, or if you can't afford to eat the New York strip every single day, extra lean ground beef contains a great amount of nutrients as well as a very solid protein to calorie ratio. As you know, protein is the most important macronutrient on the planet. It helps you build and maintain muscle, and it also contributes to weight loss because it helps you preserve muscle. So if you preserve muscle while you're losing weight, you're actually losing fat and not necessarily muscle, which is great. Now for every 100 grams of a striploin steak, you're taking around 175 calories with 30 grams of protein. While it's not right up there with foods that contain a better P to C ratio, it is good enough for me to be able to fit into my calories and also my macros for the day. Now also, steak is a great source of carnitine, zinc, creatine, iron, and B vitamins, plus a whole host of other nutrients. I don't like to say this often, but I think steak is a superfood with the amount of nutrients that it contains. So, very first food that I eat on a regular basis is a striploin steak. If you can't eat a striploin steak, you can eat extra lean ground beef. It's going to give you the same nutrient profile as well as a similar protein to calorie ratio. Now, one of the things I do love to eat my steak with is number 2, which are cruciferous vegetables. So one of my favorite things I love to do, especially when I'm on a cut, is volumize my meals. And one of the best ways to do that is with vegetables like broccoli, Brussels sprouts, kale, spinach, asparagus. All of these foods contain a high amount of nutrients as well as a very low calorie profile. And this is the whole concept of being able to eat more while losing weight. Also, fiber is super important, especially when we're trying to lose weight, because it helps fill us up and also is a net positive for improving our gut health. Now, like I said, my favorite vegetable I like to cook with is broccoli. I make long stems out of these. I put these on the barbecue grill, and the reason I like them is because number 1, they are super crunchy. That's one of the things I love and gravitate to, but it's also a nutrient powerhouse. It contains calcium, iron, phosphorus, potassium, folate, niacin, zinc, and vitamin C. I like to add these to any type of protein that I'm eating because it's going to help me increase the volume and the satisfaction that I feel without taking in necessarily extra calories. Now, this next food is something that a lot of people sleep on because it's technically boring, but it is one of the best proteins that you can eat while on a cut, and that is chicken breast. Now I know it's like chicken breast so boring, and I get it. It's not the flashiest food out there, but it gets the job done. And one of the biggest benefits of eating chicken breast is the fact that it carries an incredible protein to calorie ratio. And I'm going to stop touching these with my bare hands because I'm not a fan of salmonella. But for every 100 grams of chicken breast you're taking in, you're clocking in at 165 calories and 31 grams of protein. and this makes it one of the best bang for buck protein sources on the planet. Now, chicken is not just about protein and calorie ratio. It's also about the nutrients you're taking in. So chicken breast contains a good amount of selenium, phosphorus, vitamin B6, and niacin. But again, let's not get it twisted. This is literally one of the best budget proteins that you can eat on the planet. And I like to eat chicken breast, especially when I'm trying to be a little bit more flexible later in the day with my diet, because again, it's a great budget protein that you can eat, and it gives you a lot more allowance for the rest of your day. Now I'm going to wash these hands right now because I do not like operating with chicken juice on my fingers. Be right back. Oh, by the way, we're trying to hit 200,000 subs by the end of the year, and I really do think there's a great chance that we're gonna make it. So please help by clicking the subscribe button below, and let's get back to it. Now the second last food I like to eat, well, more so like drink on a regular basis, is a protein shake. Specifically whey protein. Now, I know whey protein powder is not a food per se, but it's probably one of the best supplements on the planet, especially if you want to insure yourself to getting more protein in your life. Now, think of this as protein insurance. If you are not hitting your protein target on a daily basis, you can use something like this, a protein shake, in order to hit that target. Like a double scoop of protein powder is around 50 grams of protein, 120 calories. That's pretty damn good. But also, whey protein is more than just getting protein. Whey protein has actually been shown to help regulate blood pressure, treat type 2 diabetes, reduce inflammation, and even treat irritable bowel syndrome. And it's not necessarily about just drinking protein. You can add this to your foods. I add this to my Greek yogurts. When I make ice cream, I add it to my ice cream. When I want to make pancakes, I add it to my pancakes. Whey protein is an underrated ingredient, especially if you want to increase the protein value of the foods that you eat. Now, a little secret that I use with this protein shake is I add a scoop of psyllium husk to the protein shake to increase its fiber intake, which leaves me feeling way more satisfied. Also, the psyllium husk adds a prebiotic source as well, which is great for the gut. And along with that, I put in a scoop of creatine in there as well. And creatine comes with a whole host of other benefits. I've talked about it on this video of the 5 supplements I'm going to take for the rest of my life. You can check it out over there. Now, the final food I eat on a regular basis is what I call free meals. Now, what you're looking at right here is a bag of durian chips. And these don't necessarily bring like more protein into my life, but for 100 grams, it's about 127 calories, which is pretty darn good. And it also helps me feel like I'm being flexible on my diet. Now, while eating clean is a benefit for getting yourself lean, you can't discount our need for flexibility. And I also say this, if you can incorporate your favorite foods into your diet, that makes for a way of eating that you can sustain for the long term. So what is a free meal? A free meal is pretty much like any food that is not associated with being healthy or being clean, but they're quite fun. Maybe it's these durian protein chips. Maybe it's ice cream. Maybe it's pizza. And one thing that I love to do is with low calorie options, say like the durian chips, I can eat these pretty much like almost every day. Now, things that are a little bit more higher calorie, whether it be pizzas or going out with my family, I like to save these things for the weekends and budget them out. And this leads me to one of my most important points, especially when it comes to dieting, is the fact that we should look at our diets more like ratios as opposed to having the mentality of being all or nothing. And here's what I mean. 80 to 90% of my meals are gonna come from whole, single ingredient, nutrient dense sources. And 10 to 20% of my calories are gonna come from whatever the I want. You could also look at this from a meal perspective. So if you're eating 3 meals a day, that amounts to 21 meals a week. You can have about 10 to 20% of those meals to be free meals for yourself. And doing this gets you away from the rigidity of thinking that you have to eat clean all the time and brings a semblance of flexibility into your life. And there is no better way of sustaining your weight loss than doing things that make you feel like you're having fun. All right, now you may be wondering, how can I apply this into my life? And if you have a goal of losing 20 pounds, here's how I would do it. So I created about 5 to 7 meals that I had on rotation that I was eating on a regular basis. And while some people will be like, oh man, that's so boring, for me, I get way more benefit from doing something almost every day as opposed to figuring out what I'm going to eat on an hour-to-hour basis. They actually say that we make about 200 food decisions a day. And for me, who needs to open up my decision making for my business, for creating these videos, and for my family, I'd rather have limited decisions rather than open myself up to the hundreds of decisions that I would make around food. I like to call this kind of like the Steve Jobs turtleneck of dieting. You have your flexibility with the free foods that allow you to have some fun, but 80 to 90% of the time, you're basically wearing a black turtleneck with jeans. And this essentially takes all the guesswork out of dieting and helps you get a steady stream of nutritious foods into your life without having to think about it. Now, while dieting is important, I would be doing a big disservice to you by saying it's the only thing that you need. So as you diet down, like I said, protein helps you build muscle. You want to build as much of this to raise your metabolic floor. And that's why I did this video on how to build muscle in half the time using this one simple trick. You can check out this video right over here, and I'll see you there.